Okay, so if menopause is natural, then why do so many women feel terrible during it and throughout the whole thing, right? So the hot flashes, the brain fog, the anxiety, the exhaustion, none of us wants this, and we certainly do not want these symptoms to become chronic during this transition. So here's the truth that most people are missing. The problem isn't menopause itself. It's the terrain that your body is transitioning through. This is where we get into the conversation a little bit about genetics and epigenetics and constitution and a bunch of interesting things that we can uncover more insight into why, for example, two women can be there having completely different experiences through this transition. So, menopause is not a disease, it is a biological transition. So, the question is, how do you experience that transition? And that is not random. As I mentioned, two women can go through the exact sort of similar hormonal shift and have completely different experiences with how they feel and how they present with their symptoms. One might feel a little more grounded and have better energy throughout it and be sleeping okay, and the other is feeling like her body is completely falling apart. So, what is the difference here? It's not the hormones alone. It's the environment those hormones are acting in. In naturopathic medicine and bioregulatory medicine, we talk about this like terrain. And terrain is if we view your body as a landscape, what is going on for you, how your constitution looks is different than the person sitting next to you. And so this is how we start to uncover key insights about the internal environment of your body. And that internal environment really matters. And this is because hormones don't act in isolation. They are responding to that terrain that they are living in. So, for example, inflammation. If the body, if the terrain, if your constitution is already inflamed, then these hormonal shifts that happen during perimenopause and menopause will amplify that signal, leading to more intense symptoms. Some examples could be joint pain, brain fog, or mood swings. We are taking a person who is in an environment, their body itself is already inflamed, and now menopause is amplifying the inflammation. Toxic load. In modern times, this is so important. Your liver is actually responsible for metabolizing hormones. If your liver is overwhelmed because of environmental stress, now for women, we really have to think about our cosmetics here. Skincare, of course, food additives, but estrogen can start recirculating instead of clearing efficiently. And it is really common for makeups, cosmetics, lotions, creams, deodorants, all the things that we are using in our daily beauty routine to be contributing to liver toxicity. So we have to look at that and see what our products are, what we're putting on our skin, what our body is exposed to that again may be amplified during this transition of perimenopause and menopause because our toxic burden is too high, our liver is uncomfortable, it's frustrated, it's agitated, it's a little cranky and angry. So we might emotionally become even more cranky and angry. Some of these mood swings we don't like because of the state of our liver. Nervous system. This is so important. Nervous system dysregulation. So, if the body is already stuck in a chronic stress response, then your system can become hypersensitive. This is when you start to see the symptoms like night sweats or anxiety, difficulty sleeping, insomnia. The nervous system is already used to fight or flight. It's not very well trained in the direction of rest, digest, and heal. And so, as the hormones shift and we produce less of the calming, cooling hormones in our system, things get too hot, things get too inflamed. Another important key piece to think about is nutrient depletion. So things like, for example, magnesium, B vitamins, and my unsung hero, which is minerals. I think we don't talk enough about minerals. Magnesium is, of course, one of them, but there are many others, are foundational for the hormones to be regulated and for the nervous system to stay stable. If these things are depleted, the body has less resilience during this transition. And the key is that we don't want to just survive this, and we certainly don't want to just suppress this, and we don't want to be replacing things in such a way, in such a manner that we're actually blocking our body's ability to do it in the best way that it can. So when these things are depleted, the body is not able to handle this transition as gracefully. So when women come in and say, why is this so easy for her and it's so hard for me? The answer is actually pretty simple. It's a similar hormonal shift, but it is a different terrain. It's a different constitution. This woman's body is going through a more difficult journey because of some of the things that are already there underlying in her system. And this is where modern life really plays a role because we are dealing so much. We are inundated with so much stressful information. So we have chronic stress, we have processed foods, poor quality foods, foods with food dyes and additives, and unfortunately hormones and all kinds of other things like this. We have dysregulated and disrupted circadian rhythms, which is the sleep and wake cycle. So we're really not getting enough restful sleep. And part of this is a result of the constant stimulation that comes from our technology and our devices, not just the screen time that affects our ability to really go deep and support the pineal gland in restful sleep. Also, just the idea that the more we're used to our bells and the things that are coming, the notifications and the emails and the inbox getting bigger, that we always feel like we have to kind of get back into this fight or flight to answer people, to get back right away, to finish our to-do list. And this again is pulling us out of our rest, digest, and heal. And menopause is really a time of conservation. So, from a physiology standpoint, menopause, of course, is a shift in estrogen and progesterone, but it is also a shift in how the brain, the adrenals, and the nervous system communicate with us. And this is a really important piece. It's not all about estrogen and progesterone. It's not all about cortisol either. It's becoming trendy to talk about this one. But the hypothalamus actually becomes more sensitive to temperature during this time, which has to do with our, the hot flashes that may come. Cortisol patterns do shift. This is a stress hormone. As it shifts, there can be sleep disruption and anxiety. Nowadays, it's very common to talk about cortisol being too high. It's also a possibility, though, that it could be a little bit low or it's just off as far as how it's supposed to be spiking in the morning and declining at night. This is why it's so important to think about you as an individual and your individual terrain, not just supplementation without understanding what's going on. So again, this is not a dysfunction that's happening here in menopause and perimenopause. It's the body adapting, but adaptation is only as smooth as your system supporting it. This is where I like to talk about ancient wisdom and how it aligns beautifully with modern science. In Chinese medicine, there's so many different things we could talk about here, but specifically the transition of our kidney qi, our kidney energy, which is our essence or our deep reserves. This transition is a time to think about conserving that. It's conservation. It's not just depletion. So if the lack of reserves have been taxed over time, if our adrenals have been really working hard and we've been under a lot of stress for a number of reasons, then, because of stress, overwork, or lack of nourishment, the body doesn't have the same foundation to transition smoothly. And we could see in a Chinese medicine perspective, we would call this heat rising is what contributes to hot flashes, a yin depletion or sort of the cooling and moisturizing, more calming, more feminine side. As that becomes depleted, then we feel dry and restless, and we can have sort of an instability in the energy, which would be the anxiety and poor sleep. So again, I sort of want to shift the question out of, instead of asking what's wrong with me, we ask, what is my body asking for right now. I often say self-care is self-discovery. It's not just so simple as, take these specific herbs, get to bed on time. When we go deeper and we discover ourselves, the self-care that we practice actually changes because we understand a little bit more about our own individual needs. This is where everything shifts because menopause isn't this body breaking down, it's the body asking you to live differently, to move from output. This would be very young. Children have this young energy. They're always out and playing and able to expend all this energy. As we go through this shift, we move from output into a little bit more restoration. Of course, we're still moving our bodies and we can do the things we love, but we're doing things in a different way. Most of us want to fight and go through life doing everything the same way. We have always done it. It doesn't work. We've all tried. And so we want to go from pushing into supporting. So I'm going to be talking a little bit more about my favorite things and what I've seen and utilized in my clinical practice as a naturopathic doctor, also as an acupuncturist, in how to support, right? So that we work with the body, we stop arguing or fighting or suppressing the changing tide. And as we support the terrain, the symptoms don't actually then have to control the experience. All right. So I'll see you soon and we'll talk a little bit more about some things that we can do to support ourselves.